he was trying to compromise him and make him like fluid. Said once you like, compromise your center of integrity, which is your butthole, you become fluid and like nothing, you get off of it.
I started kicking it with Diddy, right? I ran around with Diddy for 2 years, and this Diddy, we never went to the studio one time, but he was like, yo, I fuck with your demo, that shit, you know, bad boy, but hey, Playboy, hey, here go a watch, Playboy, here go a chain, Playboy. I'm like, yo, we ever gonna rap?
When everybody thought the Diddy chaos had officially hit its breaking point, 50 Cent came out of nowhere with a bomb of his own, saying he might have been the reason Terrence Howard didn't get pulled into Diddy's notorious party trap. But the real plot twist landed when Terrence finally broke his silence, calling out some of the biggest names in the industry for being too scared to challenge Diddy's wild behavior, and accusing others of trading their self-respect just to stay close to him. Terrence says he managed to slip out right before everything took a dark turn, and now whispers claim 50 Cent has already tapped him for his upcoming documentary series, setting the stage to blow this whole situation wide open and force everybody to answer one question: who really folded when it mattered? He said
that was all the people that did all those things thinking that there was never going to be a consequence for what they were doing. Got punked out and pimped out by some greater desire. You shouldn't have a greater desire than being a man. There's a lot of things that people do that end up sitting and they can't get over it. And they got to keep getting high, hoping to get it out of their head. But when you lose your man card, that was all the people that went to the puffy parties. That was all the people that did all those things thinking that there was never going to be a consequence for what they were doing. So it's like achieving don't mean anything. If I get all the Nobel Prizes from doing all of this, but in the process I have to trade out all of my integrity to do it so that they can stay in place, what benefit is that if I lose my integrity? You got to go in as a principal. Puffy invited me, I want to hear your music, so I come over there and I play the music. And you're sitting there, just looking at it. So then my assistant was like, he wants to hang out with you next week. And I was like, for what? He's like, I think he's trying to, that's what my assistant said. And I was like, oh, okay, now I get it. And that's always been my whole thing, and have lost businesses because I don't bend over.
People love to profit off his name while calling him a liar. But if they are bold enough to throw accusations, then they better be bold enough to stand on them. Back in the old world, he said, men didn't hide behind anything when they spoke against someone. They spoke with their whole chest. And if anyone wants to speak against him now, then they should bring the same courage he used when he told his truths, man to man, eye to eye. He even admitted he was a fan of the guy's work, saying the first thing he noticed was how powerful the Harvey character felt, the way he talked and moved. But this was the first time we ever saw him openly discussing why he walked away from Hollywood. When they rolled the clip, he explained how he made headlines after saying he'd be done once those last 15 episodes of Empire were complete, maybe for a break, maybe forever. Everybody kept telling him not to say forever, but he said he spent 37 years pretending to be other people just so others could pretend to enjoy what he was doing. Then he said he made discoveries in his personal life, digging into the same sign Pythagoras was searching for, unlocking something he called a flower of life, and finding real wave conjugations people had been chasing for 10,000 years. So why would he keep walking on water for tips when he knew he had something deeper? That was his whole point. Then he went into that other story, the one everybody keeps discussing, the moment he found himself standing there with red dots suddenly showing up all over his shirt. He said he was just there with a couple of employees around, no big entourage, no security wall, just him. And out of nowhere he realized the situation was turning serious, like dangerously serious, and he admitted he didn't even know how to process it at first. That moment alone made people realize things behind the scenes were way darker than anything we ever imagined. Now even bigger names are being dragged into the spotlight, including rappers people always thought were untouchable. But fans want to know one thing. Does 50 Cent actually have the receipts to expose what really went down at those secret gatherings with Terrence and Diddy? During the interview, Terrence dropped a cryptic line that had everyone talking. Even when he's wrong, he's still right. And then he opened up on the PBE show about the darkness inside those elite circles, the stuff nobody wants to admit exists. He said countless celebrities lose themselves the moment they step into that world, and once someone sacrifices their morals just to fit in, there's no coming back from it. Terrence explained that so many who went to Diddy's parties ended up facing the same twisted cycle, doing things they thought had no consequences.
Losing out money, you got to take, you're going through so much shit to try and deal with life. You are literally, it's an unhealthy space And so eventually you're going to go too far.
Yeah, did you see the Terrence Howard thing where he talked about how the man's like the kind of center of structural integrity is his butthole? And he claims P. Diddy was trying to compromise him and make him like fluid. He said once you compromise your center of integrity, which is your butthole, you become fluid and like nothing. You get all fucked up. Yeah, he's a mathematician. So he was saying like the geometry, like the underpinning of your structural manhood.
Like the center of gravity, he thinks is your butthole.
It's your butthole, and once you,
Which, by the way, I can't prove him wrong.
it's something to it,
Sounds
man.
like he's right again.
You say Terrence Howard, mathematician.
Hustle and Flow.
Oh boy.
The Hustle and Flow guy that's now a super genius.
Only to realize they were being manipulated the whole time. All because they chased fame at the cost of their authenticity, their peace, and their sanity. Terrence explained that once you start losing money, losing yourself, and scrambling just to keep up, you eventually end up trapped in a toxic cycle that pushes you way past your limits. He made it clear that real men don't compromise their honor, and he even called out performers who lose themselves while chasing stardom. Because once you cross certain lines, he said, there's nothing left for you to stand on. His message hit hard. Never sacrifice your integrity, no matter what the world is offering. Hold on to it, because it's seen too many people do things that haunt them for life, things they try to numb away with drugs because they can't escape the memories. He said that losing your man card is exactly what happened to all the people who went to those puffy parties, doing things they thought had no consequences. Fame meant nothing if earning it required trading away every piece of integrity just to stay in someone else's cycle. He said you're supposed to walk into every situation with principles, period. When Puffy invited him saying he wanted to hear music, he went, only to realize nothing made sense. He played tracks while Diddy just stayed, giving off an energy that felt totally off. And when his assistant whispered that Diddy wanted to hang out next week, everything instantly clicked. Terrence said his lost businesses because he refuses to bend for anyone, and he didn't hesitate when Patrick Bet David brought up names like Justin Bieber, suggesting even he might have been caught up in the chaos. Terrence said you can still see the trauma in many of these guys today, because they all gave up something under pressure, intoxication, or the rush of being in the moment. According to him, what happens afterward requires real therapy because the mental damage doesn't fade. For some, it spirals into depression, addiction, or a complete collapse of identity. Fame looks glamorous from a distance, but the reality behind the scenes is far darker. He even mentioned that viral clip where he admitted Diddy tried to approach him under the disguise of talking about acting. Terrence showed up expecting work, asking what material they'd be diving into, and Diddy just stared. No script, no scenes, nothing. His assistant pulled him aside, saying exactly what was going on, and Terrence knew right that it had nothing to do with acting or music. But here's the issue he raised. Why didn't he check Diddy right then and there? He said women often hold back their stories out of fear or trauma, but men don't get that excuse. If any man ever tried that with him, it would have been an immediate problem. Terrence even called out certain women in the industry who traded their bodies for roles, saying, yeah, they might gain fame or money, but they lose their spirit and their purpose, something he says is never worth the cost. Recognition means nothing if your morals are gone. And that's when he revealed even darker details. Diddy had been inviting him for weeks to be his acting coach, but every time Terrence showed up, it was just staring, silence, and strange behavior. Then Diddy switched the angle, said he wanted to hear some music, but still just watched him like he was waiting for something else entirely. His assistant finally told him the truth. Diddy didn't want to work, he wanted something else. Terrence cut off communication immediately. He said you know when someone is hands-off and when someone is dangerous, and every producer who tried approaching him the wrong way got threatened instantly. Because when you approach a real man about his masculinity, you're going to get a real reaction. A man walks into a room differently than someone pretending to be one, and a man doesn't tolerate the same things others accept. Terrence said every person who got sucked into those puffy parties believed there would be no consequences, but they got used, pimped out, and broken because their desire to belong was stronger than their desire to stay men. Terrence didn't sugarcoat a thing. He said he's been speaking on this for years while everyone pretended not to hear him, and now suddenly the whole internet is waking up. He explained that he never went to those parties because he already knew what was going on behind those doors. He wasn't interested in the freaky stuff or the culture that required silence and participation to survive. He said he always kept his distance because he's not built like that. He's basic, in the best way. And once you understand the celebrity ecosystem, you also understand why so many stayed quiet. Terrence revealed Diddy wasn't the only one who tested him. Several producers tried offering questionable opportunities, but he refused to fold. He said a real man doesn't compromise his integrity for a check or a role. Walking away cost him major career moments, but he says he never once regretted staying true to himself. So when his interview dropped, the internet blew up, calling him one of the few brave enough to speak openly about the reality behind the curtain. And with 50 Cent, who avoided those same parties, gearing up to feature him in the upcoming Diddy documentary, things are about to hit a whole new level. Terrence said it bluntly, "I don't compromise. I don't play roles that take my manhood. I don't do that because the man card means everything." He said you can see the struggle in guys like Bieber, men who can't get certain moments out of their heads because they cross lines they never should have crossed, whether they were high, pressured, or caught up in the moment. He said everyone who went to those puffy parties gave up a piece of themselves, and has never seen anyone fully recover from it. Money might come, but the dream, the soul, the original purpose, they disappear. After Terrence's claims went public, 50 Cent reposted the clip with just one caption: "No comment. God help us all." And here's the twist. He's turning the entire Diddy situation into a high-budget Netflix documentary. Netflix snagged the deal after a massive bidding war sparked by 50 turning the scandal into pure industry gold. The documentary will cover everything from Cass's lawsuit to the darkest allegations tied to those infamous parties. And of course, in classic 50 style, has already reached out to Terrence for even more receipts and deeper insight. It's no surprise, though, 50 has always backed Terrence, especially when the conversation turned to how black men are treated in Hollywood and the roles they are pressured into playing. Terrence talked about leaving Hollywood after 37 years of pretending to be other people so audiences could pretend to care. He said he found scientific truths he'd been searching for his entire life, unlocking concept Pythagoras studied thousands of years ago. After making those discoveries, he asked himself, why would I keep walking on water for tips? He decided he was done. Terrence also backed Reggie P. Henia after he exposed how underpaid black actors have been in Hollywood. Terrence said none of it surprised him because he lived it. For Hustle and Flow, a movie that made over $75 million, he was paid just $12,000 and never received a single royalty for the songs he performed. For Crash, he only made $6,000. He said Paramount still owes him 20 years of residuals, and he had to send them letters just to remind them he exists. He said that's exactly why actors are striking today, because the business doesn't pay, and most actors are barely surviving. And when people questioned his controversial math theories, Terrence fired back saying if he was wrong, the industry wouldn't be so bothered. He claimed he proved using their own calculators that 1 by 1 doesn't equal 1, because action multiplied by action without reaction breaks basic mathematical law. He said the contradictions in the square root of 2 alone should have set off red flags in the scientific community decades ago. According to him, these flaws are proof the world has been taught broken math for years, and that's exactly why he stepped away from Hollywood to focus on discovering real truth. Terrence continued breaking down his mathematical theory, saying the real issue connects directly to how prime numbers get distributed. He argued that anytime you subtract one prime from another, you always land on a composite number, except when the number 2 is involved. According to him, subtracting 2 from another prime gives you a prime because, in his view, 2 is actually a composite. And while people might call it strange, he says that contradiction is exactly why math has been broken for centuries. Terrence insisted these inconsistencies prove the system needs to be re-examined from the ground up. He also revealed his pursuing legal action against Paramount for money they owed him more than 20 years ago, exposing how he received just $6,000 for the Oscar-winning film Crash. That alone shows Diddy isn't the only controversy in the industry. Hollywood itself is full of corruption, exploitation, and broken systems. Terrence said he's tired of working himself to the bone, excelling at his craft, and still being paid a fraction of what he deserves. Taraji P. Henson's emotional rant about equal pay is going viral for the same reason. She said big bills come with big careers, and actors don't do it alone. Teams of people depend on them. Taraji revealed that even after finally getting a fair quote in 2018, she hasn't received a raise since, and she still has to fight tooth and nail on every single project. That constant battle has drained her joy, leaving her unexcited about the work she once loved. She said she knows exactly what others are getting paid, and the gap isn't accidental. It's about being a woman, and specifically a black woman, in an industry that still refuses to respect what black women bring to the table. Her honesty ignited a firestorm, proving this problem runs far deeper than people realize. After hearing Terrence's story, 50 Cent stepped in immediately, sending him and Taraji to G-Unit Films with a promise they'd finally get paid what they deserved. He even posted a clip of Terrence saying, "Yeah, it get hard," reflecting on being underpaid for hustle and flow. 50 said he always wanted the best performers and was shocked to hear how badly they were compensated back then. To lighten the mood, he joked about Taraji spotting Mary J. Blige dragging a massive suitcase, turning a heavy moment into a laugh. But the message remained serious. Things need to change. Terrence then dropped another shocker. He said he's had to turn down $50 million offers 4 different times just to protect his integrity, and at Virgin Hole, he refused to compromise. He joked that Diddy always wants a party, and you've got to tell him no, even when everyone else is saying yes. Terrence warned that if someone profits off his name while calling him a liar, they better be ready to stand behind their words like men. In the old world, men didn't hide when they spoke against someone. They stood eye to eye, face to face. And if you weren't built for that, you stayed silent. He laughed as he repeated the old saying, "If there's new booty in the building, Diddy's going to spot it. Don't bring your girlfriend to a Diddy party." Terrence said if you do, he might not touch you, but is definitely going after her. In a follow-up post, 50 Cent urged Terrence to contact him directly to claim the money still owed to him. No strings attached. The timing couldn't be better, especially now that Terrence is speaking publicly about his experiences with Diddy and the strange dynamic between Diddy and 50. Fans are applauding all 3 of them for finally breaking the silence. But the real question still hangs in the air. Who actually gave in to Diddy? Terrence made it clear. Many people in the industry gave up their morals to stay in Diddy's inner circle, and some even lost their entire sense of identity because of it. Diddy himself has said certain people were more like family than friends. He once said Jay-Z was the only person allowed to call him by his real name, Sean, aside from his own mother. Diddy called Jay his strategist, his brother, his extended family. These weren't casual connections. This was loyalty at the highest level. Sources say 50 Cent is determined to expose everyone connected to the situation in his upcoming documentary, with Jay-Z allegedly being one of the next major targets. The footage and statements directly contradict Jay-Z's claim that he wasn't close to Diddy. Diddy has publicly said Jay was the first person he'd call in any emergency, and that their bond was deeper than business. This goes far beyond gossip. The documentary is shaping up to redefine what loyalty, friendship, and power look like behind the scenes of hip-hop and Hollywood. Another clip resurfaced showing an artist who said he spent 2 full years running around with Diddy, flying on private jets, hopping from Miami to New York to Atlanta, but never once stepping foot in the studio. He said Diddy kept promising opportunities, saying, "Bad boy, bad boys, here go a watch, Playboy," but music was never the focus. They were going everywhere except to work. Then one day, while they were smoking together, Diddy suddenly told him, "You belong with Dr. Dre." And just like that, everything made sense. Before I ever linked up with Diddy, I actually went to go work with Suge. And back then, Suge had a whole roster: Eastwood, Crooked Eye, Curupt, and Left Eye. I was young, wild, and had my entire hood behind me, so Death Row felt like the obvious move. I mean, it was Pac, Snoop, Dre, and Suge. Why wouldn't any young artist want to sign there? I was still deep in the streets, not really caring about consequences. I wanted the music, but I was still carrying everything that came with that lifestyle. People always ask if me and Puff kept a relationship through the years, and the honest answer is yes, just not in the way people assume. Every time I talked to him, it was always the same energy. He never treated me as anything but a good dude. I've been around him a million times and never saw any of the wild stuff people claim. That's just my experience. I can't speak for anybody else's truth, but mine is mine. Outside of the Cassis situation, which they settled fast, Puff was always someone I respected in the industry. And to be clear, settling doesn't automatically mean guilt. But it does mean he decided to resolve something publicly instead of letting it drag. That's what I meant. As for all that freak-off talk floating around online, I never witnessed anything like that. I don't know what a man does behind closed doors. All I ever saw was two rock stars living their best life in a relationship. That's it. He was actually instrumental in building that whole circle. Now, the first time I met Puff was through Jodeci. I was completely in my R&B bag at the time. That's where my whole foundation was. We were at a Live Aid concert in New York, and they were like, "Yo, Big and Puff are on the show." I honestly didn't even know who they were yet. I was just locked into that Jodeci wave. But Chad Elliott, Dr. Seuss, introduced us, and from there, Puff became part of my world. Fast forward, I'm chilling at Diddy's mansion in Miami when Homeland Security suddenly rushes in. I'm there by myself except for some of his staff, so I'm thinking it's some prank or something. Then I look down and see red dots all over my chest, laser sights everywhere. I couldn't believe it. I froze. They didn't cuff me, but they did detain me and move me to the side while they tore the place apart. It didn't feel real, like I stepped into someone else's nightmare. And now Jay-Z wants to act like he and Diddy were never that close, saying, "We weren't really tight, bro." But the stories don't match that narrative at all. There are moments that reveal just how deep that bond went. Like the time Diddy missed a major event for his own child just so he could perform with Jay. That doesn't happen unless the connection is real. And it gets even deeper. During his 2023 carpool karaoke with James Corden, Diddy casually admitted something wild. Jay-Z is one of the very few people, aside from his own mother, who's allowed to call him by his real name, Sean. That's not normal industry friendship. That's family-level access. That's years of loyalty, secrets, and shared moments the world hasn't even heard about yet. And that's exactly why fans don't believe Jay's sudden distance now.